I want to look at the three features of leadership present in Plato and persistent perhaps today. These are right, honesty, and responsibility. Now, the story of the cave is about the education of kings and the link between knowledge and leadership. Plato believed a good leader could be either a blessing or a curse. And good leaders are dependent on and reflect the society that gave them the power in the first place. And for that matter, Plato would hold that democracy was not a positive experience, and nor, of course, was the dominance of money or the power of a minority, an oligarchy. But this, of course, was just theory. He would start by believing that a good leader cannot be stupid. In modern terms, you cannot be a good boss if you do not know your job, if you don't know about the product, if you can't see your business in a wider context, and more than that. If you can do this, you should be managing, you should be leading. Plato thinks a superior education generates a right and a duty to rule. A CV generates a right to rule. This anticipates trait theory, by assuming that leaders are born rather than made, but they can be educated and improved. A movement between the classes is based on education. Leadership can be learned, but some people are better disposed to lead than others. But the concept of a ruler with absolute sovereignty, whether good or bad, persists. You find it in Thomas Hobbes, in Leviathan, then modified in Locke, and even in Rousseau, who cautions us to put common good over self-interest. But then Plato already had that idea, and more generalizing, if you emphasize common good, it silences the critics. Of course, there often comes a time, as in the case of modern Greece and in France, when the people maybe rightly rebel against what they have been fed as the common good. Consistency, consideration, kindness, these are the virtues of the confident boss, but recognizing your limitations too. There's a story of the Mullah Nasruddin, and a friend says, "You should show your wife who's boss in your own house." Nasruddin says, "There's no need. She knows." The real boss is self-evident. And you may be boss here, but you're not boss there. You shouldn't forget that. Now, the attempts to put Plato's theories into practice with Dionysius I and Dionysius II, and then later by Aristotle with Alexander the Great, were not really successful. In fact, with the Dionysiuses were an unqualified disaster. The second point is honesty, or at least the illusion of honesty. In the modern era, John Maynard Keynes, in contrast to Machiavelli, says that the leader should be a reckless truth-teller. But truth is relative. And the call that Plato makes for the use of religion to keep people in their place, what he calls the noble lie, and in 1925 Hitler calls a similar sort of thing the big lie. You know, Hitler says that the more colossal the lie, the more people are going to believe it. Plato's using religion to keep people obedient to the leader. And he sanitizes religion. He says, take the nasty bits out. He's a sort of Walt Disney of the pre-Christian era. Keep people in their place by telling them nice stories. It's a myth itself, a form of truth, just not a literal form. So we have to be very careful with Plato's concept of honesty, but it's there nevertheless. And finally, responsibility. The quality of our lives will depend on how much we are prepared to take responsibility for ourselves and to help those who are unfortunate. That's what Mrs. Thatcher said. Now, here is the message. The ruler needs power, needs a message, truth or lie, as long as it's inspiring, but the leader needs to take responsibility for the community he or she leads, otherwise they are not a good leader. Otherwise, actually, they are not leading.